Hi, I'm Patricia Grabarek.
And I'm Katina Sawyer, and welcome to the Worker Being Podcast. Today, Patricia has an article for us. What are we going to be talking about today?
This article is so interesting. I love that someone's doing this work and research. It's about employees not using their vacation days and why do they not use vacation days.
Ooh. I love that. We've never talked about that topic before.
Yeah, we've talked about vacation and how important vacation is for your wellness and recovery, but we haven't talked about why people don't use it. And so this is a kind of a cool piece to learn a few reasons why. Yep.
I love that. That's very exciting. Yeah, because I know it's a big thing that people, the like use it or lose it type thing that, folks talk about all the time, that there's an issue with people not taking their vacation time, even when their company wants them to take their vacation time. And I think that that's a very interesting phenomenon. So I'm curious to learn more about that, especially because, as you said, we know vacations are very important for wellness.
Exactly. So I think you'll like it. I think you'll like this article. It's brand new. So I think there'll probably be more work coming in this space, but it should be fun to dive into. But before we do that, you have had an exciting day today.
Yes, I did. An article that I've been working on forever got conditionally accepted. Yay! So one day we can
big journal. Woo.
Yes. So one day we can talk about it on the podcast, which I'm excited about. It's like it's on hope. So it's a very, wellnessy related topic because there's some good benefits to being hopeful, as we know. So yeah, we will talk about that then, but I was so excited. So for folks that don't know how it works, basically you write a paper and then it goes to 3 blind reviewers and an associate editor that's responsible for like culling the reviews. And you usually go through multiple rounds of reviews. If your paper has the opportunity to get through get a chance to revise it if they think it's, good enough. And then, you keep going back and forth between the reviewers and you until they feel like it's ready to get published. But at any time it could be rejected, and the likelihood of it getting rejected is actually pretty high. So every time you get it back from them, you're wondering if it's going to be a rejection email or, okay, green light, let's continue having this conversation about how to keep making this paper better. And so I knew that this email was going to be like the decision, because we're kind of at that point where the back and forth is quieting down. And so when it came in, I was like literally like shaking. I had also drank like a lot of iced tea, but but I was like literally like shaking. And then I was like, I just had to open it, and I'm like scrolling. There was like all this text. I'm like, where does it say like what the decision is? And like buried in like the 3rd paragraph, it was like, I'm going to provisionally accept the manuscript. You just have to make some more changes. But we're good. And I was like, I was so happy. It was like, so exciting. I'm so happy. So anyway, it's been like almost 6 years that I've been working on this project. When I first started collecting the data for it was about 6 years ago. So it's just wild. And it's been under review now in the review process now for about a year, between a year and a half and 2 years. So it's been quite a while of
wow.
Yeah. So I'm just happy.
But congratulations.
Thank you.
A long time coming. So now you have to celebrate this weekend.
I know. Well, I ordered sushi tonight. I ate part of it and I'm going to eat the rest of it after we're done.
Yum. Sushi's a good celebratory food for sure.
It is. I know. It's my favorite. Brendan was like, we have to get sushi. I said, okay. Yeah.
You're like, obviously.
Yes. So that's what we did. And I have some delicious sushi awaiting me. Yay. But yeah, so today was a good day. What was your day like?
My day was, I feel like my theme has always been, it's been busy. It's busy. Yeah, there's a lot going on in my new job. And so I have been a little bit busy. I have to say, I did a funny thing today. So I wasn't going to have much time for lunch. And so I was kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to order in some lunch. And I was like, I kind of feel like Chinese food. I'm going to order in some Chinese food. And I ordered it. But I didn't I was in a meeting when I was ordering it, so I didn't look at it that carefully. And then this thing showed up that I didn't know what it was. And I was like, what did I order? And then I looked back and I ordered like a type of noodles that I've never had before. That's like I mean, I should have read about it more, but it's like they came separated. It was like there was like a broth and then like this crunchy noodle thing, and like I just haven't had it before, and it's probably like a totally normal thing, but I hadn't had it before, and so I got it, and I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. It's like not great. So that was a fail because I probably should read what I'm ordering a bit more. I was like, noodles, and then I just clicked order. I didn't really pay attention. So
mystery lunch.
Yeah. But
that's funny.
I mean, it was good. It was just not what I thought I had ordered.
Like, what's happening?
I basically thought I'd ordered some sort of like, like pan-fried noodle dish or whatever,
right.
And I clearly did not.
Instead, you got some kind of a crunchy brothy thing.
Yeah.
And you probably were like, they gave me the wrong thing. And then you're like, oh, I ordered the wrong thing.
Nope, I ordered it. So
I gave
note
me the
to
wrong
self.
thing.
Yeah. Don't try to do those two specific things at once apparently don't work well for me. So
it's okay.
Oh, well.
It's okay. You discovered a new dish that you didn't know. And now if you ever see it again, you'll know how to tell someone else what to do with it. And it could be very valuable.
Yeah, it was just a funny situation because I'm sitting there in this meeting and like I'm looking at it and I'm like, I have to go get a bowl now, and I have to go get like I thought I would just have like a container, I could just quickly eat it, and that did not happen.
It's hard to eat. I mean, I've noticed that too. Like, it's kind of funny because we all know that we're in our houses and like we know what times meals are at and stuff, but it still feels funny sometimes. Like I'll eat in a call, like with people I know, like if it's my, my colleagues or whatever, but like, it's not really like normative to eat in like every call. Or I have that new walking desk. And so I'll walk in meetings where I feel like I know the people well enough that they won't care. But if it's like someone I'm meeting for the first time, I won't walk. But it's like, why? Like, why can't we like be humans on these calls? It's kind of funny because like you're in your house, know, everybody knows that you've got like back-to-back stuff, or just like, have a little bit of a camera break and say, gonna turn the camera off. That also can be good.
Yeah, I definitely turn the camera off when I eat.
Yeah.
Like no one needs to see that.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling a little bit because, this is something we talk about all the time. Like I've been scheduling lunch breaks and yet people just keep scheduling over them.
No.
And then I feel like I'm so new. So I'm like nervous of saying no to things.
Yeah.
I've been trying. I'm trying to get better about just saying no, or proposing a new time or something. But there's been a lot of that because the problem is that we have people across the whole country. So there's people on the East Coast that are like, well, we have to get, like, they want to get all their meetings in before 2:00 my time. So,
right.
And then for me, like, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you that early. Like, I want to wake up at a normal time. So there's just been, it's an interesting balance. I don't feel like the company, being new, hasn't really figured out all of these things, like, as a culture. So it's interesting. Like, I feel like it's a case study of everything that we talk about and like how we need to, like, how do you do all of this when everyone's really busy and not taking the time to think it through?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make an influence there, but it's interesting given everything we talk about, trying to role model, but sometimes I can't role model that well and nobody else is role modeling. And I'm trying to figure out like, how, as a brand new person, can I start shifting people away from doing things that are, kind of problematic from a wellness perspective?
That's true. I mean, stop stealing Patricia's lunch. If you're listening, she needs her lunch.
Give me my lunch.
It's causing her to order strange dishes she doesn't know.
I know.
It's very bad. No, I agree, though. I mean, I think that's hard because you're coming into new norms and hopefully you'll get comfortable enough to, make that switch, or at least to like block off if someone takes your lunchtime to like be able to block off another, like chunk of time near it or something, to at least like, I've been doing a lot of like combining my breakfast and lunch. Like I'll eat breakfast later. And then it's kind of like I have like for whatever reason, I feel like it's easier for me to do like a late morning and a late afternoon break. So I've been doing like a later breakfast and a later lunch.
That's funny because I never have breakfast at all. And that's just like a weird thing. I'm not that hungry in the morning. I'll just have like tea or something. So I don't really eat breakfast much. And so to me, it's kind of combined anyways, naturally. But I will say the good news is that everybody within the company that I work with, like they all know that it's a problem. It's just really hard to change the way people work once they've gotten into a routine, even if the routine isn't good. So it's not like a thing where I'm coming in and I'm like, you know, I think we need to be better about breaks. And everyone's like, no, we don't like breaks, you know? I think everyone is on board with the idea, but it's just really hard to shift in a very fast-paced company. So I think it's a really interesting it's just a really interesting dynamic to figure out, like, how do these fast-paced startups like adapt? And, you know, Katina, you and I, oftentimes when we've got projects and things are on top of our full-time jobs, like we're not doing what we say we should be doing either. So it can be really hard for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, I think, and it speaks to like the struggle that everybody has, that, you know, your days are all different and it can be difficult in any one given day to, you know, maybe one day you don't reach your goal, but it balances out because, you know, you're getting to your goal on other days when you normally wouldn't have, or maybe, you know, it's about just getting a little bit better all the time. So right now, if you're having trouble eating lunch any day a week, maybe if you can just do it one day a week and then it morphs into 2 days a week or whatever, like just trying to make that little progress sometimes can be the best we can do. And it's a good reminder. And it's also linked to your topic, which is, why don't people take vacations? Because we know vacations are good for us, just like we know lunch breaks are good for us and these other things. And yet sometimes we don't use them or do them.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect transition. It's true though. Like it is linked. You know, if people are really busy, it can feel like you can't take time away, which ties into some of the findings. So it's really important to make those incremental changes, like you said, slowly move in the right direction, and then hopefully the company can get, or, you know, you can get aligned to what you're looking for. But let's talk about this article. So
yes,
it is called Understanding Employees' Unused Vacation Days, a Social Cognitive Approach. And it's by, I butcher names, so I apologize to all the authors out there.
Everyone.
It's Kuykendall, Craig, Stiksma, and Guarino. And it was published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology. And it was just published, like 2021 the year. Literally just came out, I believe, this month, April. So
awesome.
Yeah, yep, brand new.
That's exciting.
I think you're gonna like it. So this article talks about, obviously, vacation days. Like, we know we've talked about this on the podcast before, on our blog before, but vacations are really important for employees to recover from stress that they have at work, to help them maintain their well-being. We know that it can really make a big impact on recovery. People coming back from vacation tend to, you know, feel better at work. They have less physical complaints. They have less exhaustion, all sorts of good things when you're talking about vacations. But people don't take them.
Well, that does sound like a problem. And the thing is, I think most people like vacations. So it's not even just like we have to convince people that there's benefits. It's also like interesting that people don't take it because people generally aren't like, ooh, vacation. I hate vacation. You know?
I know. It's so true, though. It's really true. People don't take it, even though everyone kind of wants to, in theory, at least.
So interesting.
They actually quoted a study, or like a survey conducted by the Society for Human Resource Management. And it said that only 68% of employees use all of their paid vacation days.
Wow.
What?
That's
I mean,
wild.
If you have unlimited vacation days, then obviously you can't. But I think this is only counting people that have actual days. And so 68% of people are not taking it. That's wild.
Wow. That is wild.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
I know. And another survey looked to see like what's the most common amount of vacation days in the US, because the US, generally speaking, has fewer days than most other countries. The most common allotment of days is 10 days.
Wow.
So in theory, if 68% of people are not even taking 10 days off, that's like, I mean, mind-blowing.
That really is mind-blowing. And you said that this is in the US, right?
In the US, correct.
Okay, yeah. Because I know that vacations are much more, taking longer vacations is much more normative in other places than it is here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. More vacation days, all of that good stuff, outside of the U.S. So a lot, this whole study really centers around the U.S. I'm sure that there's probably some things that might relate to other countries. It just might be on a different scale, right? Like instead of taking the full 4 weeks, somebody only takes 3 weeks or whatever, you know, like I'm sure that there's some people that still don't take vacation. But it probably depends on the culture, specifically in the country. So this is really focused on the U.S. So sorry to our international listeners. We're talking about the U.S. here.
Or maybe good for them because perhaps this problem does not apply.
They're like, this is boring.
Yeah,
we take
vacations to you. Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So awesome. So what did they find? What are some of the things that what did they do in the study, and then what did they find?
So I'm going to back up 1 second.
Yes.
Because this study is really looking at things that might impact behavior that are not demographic. So there has been research around what types of people are more likely to take vacation or less likely to take vacation, and what types of jobs lend themselves to that. So that has been done. So I just want to share the results on that before we dive into what this study did.
Cool. That sounds great.
Yeah. So employees who are older, who are female, who are married and living with a partner, or living with a partner rather, who have kids at home, and who have higher socioeconomic status are all more likely to use their paid vacation days.
What does older mean?
I didn't look back into the original studies that they cited.
Yeah. But I wonder what that age bracket looks like, because like sometimes they use like over 40 or something. It's curious. I mean, and I wonder if do they know what they use their vacation days for, because the having children part would be kind of interesting to see if they're like actually taking the vacation like to go on a vacation, or if they're taking the vacation to like because a kid is sick and so they use a vacation day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I think that we could probably dive into, there's a lot of studies that they cited, so we could probably dive into some of those at some point and dig into that deeper. But I did find it interesting because it could be a lot of variety of reasons about how they use their vacation days, but they do use them. So they are taking time away from work.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then they also cited one study from 2006 that found that employees who work longer hours tend to use less vacation days, and then employees who work in a job longer, so they're more tenured at a company, tend to use more vacation days.
That's interesting. Yeah, and that makes sense. I'm sure overwork drives use of vacation days down. That may be something to do with the culture of the company too. And then, yeah, it makes sense that the longer you're there, the more you feel like you can take the time, or maybe that you deserve to take the time or whatever.
Exactly. Yep. So that makes sense. And then in this study, what they basically were using a theory called social cognitive theory, which emphasizes two factors that can impact behavior. So self-efficacy, which you've talked about before. So self-efficacy is basically like whether or not I think I can do something, like I have the ability to do whatever action it is I'm going to do.
Right.
And then it also talks about people's outcome expectations. So whether or not the consequences of their behavior are going to lead to positive things or negative things.
Cool. Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those two kind of areas are what they focus on with social cognitive theory. And they basically adjusted all of that to this idea of vacation. So they had, in their theory, they really looked at what they call detachment self-efficacy. So it's the extent to which employees believe they can actually detach or disconnect from work while on that vacation. Okay. And then for outcome expectations, they looked at 6 positive outcomes if people took a vacation. So there could be 6 things: being relaxed, feeling refreshed, having fun, gaining perspective, connecting with loved ones, and making progress on personal priorities and projects. So those are the positive outcomes that people could expect potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then the negative outcomes were experiencing stress while planning the vacation, experiencing stress during the vacation, being perceived as less committed by supervisors and or colleagues, burdening coworkers, falling behind at work, falling behind in housework, and negative financial consequences.
Okay. So in this social cognitive frame, then basically they're saying they're wondering from the social perspective if people think that they'll be able to detach, and from the cognitive perspective if people are anticipating that there will be positive and or negative benefits or consequences to taking the vacation. Is that accurate?
Yes, exactly. And so then what they did, the first 3 studies I'm not going to talk a ton about, because basically what they were doing was creating items around the things I just talked about. So nobody has really studied social cognitive theory in relation to vacations like this before.
Mm-hmm.
So they were creating items, making sure the items were properly functioning, that you can actually measure these things. So they created the measures for self-efficacy when it comes to detaching on a vacation, and then the outcome expectations for vacations.
Gotcha.
So all of that was created in the first 3 studies that they then use in the 4th study, which leads us to the interesting findings.
Awesome. That sounds good. And actually, that's kind of interesting because, I mean, it does make sense, right? You wouldn't want to go on a vacation if you feel like you're not going to be able to actually get away. So one thing that might discourage you is like, well, what does it really matter? Because I might be in a different location, but I'm still going to be worried about work, or I'm still going to have to check in, or I'm still going to have to take calls. And maybe you've even done that before and realized, like, you know, it actually wasn't worth the money for me to spend to go away when I'm still working. And then the positive, negative expectations are like, you know, do I actually think that the benefits of this are going to outweigh the potential consequences, which could be things that are work related, or they could be financial, like you mentioned.
Exactly. Yep. So what they did in study 4 is take all of that and try to understand who used vacation days and how did these things impact that, right? So what they did is they actually did a time separated study, right? So you could see if people actually take vacation. So they had time 1 was in December of 2018, and time 2 was January of 2019. So they were looking to see, hold on, I feel like that's wrong, but maybe it's not wrong. But anyways, they looked at 2 different time periods.
Yes.
And wanting to understand the use of vacation days that people took. So,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they looked at how much time they spent in that last year, I guess, was one of the things they were asking.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that the second time period being in 2019 is that they were able to look back through all of 2018 to understand whether they took vacations.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yep. And they had, I guess, a total of 1,400 participants that did the first survey and just over 800 participants that took the second survey. So a pretty big sample.
Yeah.
And they measured that detachment self-efficacy, as well as the positive and negative outcome expectations. They asked people how many paid vacation days they get. So how many days did they get in 2018? How many days did they use in 2018? And then they also asked questions around, like, do they have a use it or lose it policy? Because that obviously could be something that could impact whether people use it. So they could control for things like that. Just really trying to understand the policies they had as well. So
awesome.
They asked those questions. And what did they find?
Yeah,
so,
I'm curious.
I know. It's really cool. I think it's really cool, at least. And I think there's some very clear takeaways from it, which makes it even more exciting to me.
Yay. Clear takeaways.
I know. We love those clear takeaways. So the results basically found that when we just think about policies just in general, employees who were given more vacation days ended up having more unused vacation days, which is sad. So people, even if they had a big pile, they would end up having a big pile left over. They might have taken more vacation days than somebody that had a smaller pile of vacation days, but they still didn't finish taking it, right? So they still had a lot left over.
Gotcha.
But people that had a use it or lose it policy actually did have fewer unused days.
That makes sense. Yeah, and also I think sometimes when people know they can roll, they might plan for a longer vacation in the future, even if they might not end up taking it. But I know some people that are on rolling plans will be like, well, I didn't use my vacation this year, but at some point I'm going to go for like 3 weeks to Europe or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do think people might plan for the future, but it does sound like maybe those plans might not come to fruition all the time anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's hard because if people make these plans so far ahead, there's probably other things that might come into play, right? That might impact you being able to do that at some point. So, like, for example, COVID hit and then you can't go anywhere. And then you had all these vacation days that made you sad and stuck at home anyways.
And people didn't take a lot of vacation days during COVID too, because they were just like, oh, I'm at home, I shouldn't take time. But the reality is that, you know, people probably right now are pretty burnt out from not having a break. I'm curious to see what the impact will be on vacation days moving forward. If like once vacations open up, everybody's going to be like, bye. But anyway, I digress. Go back to the findings of the study.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, though. So that was just kind of like the basic story as to what happened from like a high level perspective. But when looking at the actual variables, so they found that if somebody felt like they'd actually be able to detach at work, so they had high detachment self-efficacy, they would have fewer unused vacation days. So basically, you know, just what you'd expect, right? If I think that me taking time off means I actually get to take time off and actually get to leave work, then I'm going to use that time. If I don't think that, you know, if I'm going to go to Hawaii and still have to work, I'm going to be less likely to do so because what's the point?
Right. That makes sense. And I know we'll probably talk about takeaways later, but one of those takeaways I would imagine would be, hey, don't bug people on vacation and don't make it a norm to bug people on vacation, because the more you bug people on vacation, the more they know that they're not going to be able to detach, and then the less vacation they take.
100%. That is definitely something that they put in the takeaways, and I think it's a very obvious one. The other thing they found was if people expected that they would feel relaxed on vacation, then they'd be more likely to take vacation.
Yes, that makes sense.
And then they found that if people expected negative financial consequences, they were less likely to take vacation.
Wait, so out of all those positive things and those negative things that you said before, is it that they found that was the biggest driver, the relaxing part on the positive side, and the money part was the biggest driver on the negative side?
Exactly. Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. So those two are the most important, and considerably so. Like, it's specifically said like a 1 unit increase in expectations of feeling relaxed was associated with 12% fewer unused vacation days.
Wow.
I know. And then for the negative financial consequences, 1 unit increase in expectations of those negative financial consequences was associated with a 10% increase in unused vacation days.
Wow, that's super interesting. I'm thinking about, I mean, those are like really strong results. I'm thinking about how the relaxed piece seems so related to the detaching piece, right? Like, so it seems like this idea of being able to actually unwind and disconnect is really important for having people use their vacation days. And then the monetary piece is really interesting too. It may be a message to make sure you're paying your employees fairly. But also it could be an interesting thing potentially for like, you know, bonusing people in vacations or rewards things that have to do with vacation, like vacation points or, you know, vouchers, or I don't know. I'm just like trying to think of, if you put those two things together, giving people more financial peace of mind and actually letting them disconnect seems to be a good recipe.
I mean, you're just jumping straight to what they wrote in their takeaways. You have the same mind as some of these researchers. The one thing I did want to call out that's really important is that this was particularly important for people who received fewer vacation days. If you received a lot of vacation days, the relationships basically went away. So, you know, if you have so many vacation days that it doesn't really matter if you work on that one vacation because whatever, I have a lot more left. You like that seems to be the mindset. You might not care as much about whether or not you detach and whether or not you feel relaxed because you know that there's more vacation time coming potentially.
Gotcha. But it also is the case that if I have a lot of vacation time, I might not take it too, right? So it's kind of like, it feels like having unlimited vacation time helps you make up for a potentially bad vacation, but also makes it less likely that you'll take a vacation to begin with. So it seems like kind of funny.
Yeah, it is interesting. But I will say that I have seen companies recently start adding in a minimum number of vacation days.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so it's like if they'll give you unlimited time off, but there's a minimum of 10 days you have to take.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, I think that's really cool. I think that's a really great way to manage the unlimited PTO situation because a lot of people don't take advantage of that, and it becomes this really weird culture. Like, we're so cool. You can take all the time off you want, but then no one takes time off.
Right.
So, there has to be a balance. Like, you have to create the culture where it's normal for people to take time off. Leaders have to model that, but then if you provide a minimum, then it's like, well, at least we're forcing people to take some recovery time.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And they should probably partner that with not bothering people when they're out too.
100%. Yeah. So the main takeaways that the study had that they wrote about, and I think is some of what you've talked about already and probably what people are thinking as they're listening, but we need people to normalize detaching while on vacation. So companies really need to focus on that, and leaders have to model it. A leader needs to take a break when they're on vacation too, so that other people see that and know that it's okay for them not to respond to an email while they're on vacation. Yeah. So that's really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that makes a lot of sense because people always look to the leader to see, okay, well, you're saying that I can do this, but are the people who have gotten ahead actually doing that? And if the answer is no, then it's not going to you're not going to see people actually having an uptake on that.
Exactly. Right. You need to make it a norm so everyone feels comfortable and they can just do it. And it's really sad that we even have to have this conversation, to be honest. It should be, you're giving paid vacation days for a reason, right? Because you need time to take a break. It's not just like a fun perk. I feel like we've kind of become a culture where vacation days are a perk versus a need. And they really are a need. Taking a vacation to Disney World might not be a need, but taking time off of work is a need.
Right. Yeah. Like where you go or how you spend your vacation time is less important than the fact that you're disconnecting and recovering. It's really interesting because my department chair right now is Herman Guinness, and he's just super, super, super productive. But he does take 2 vacations every year, and they're long. They're for, I think they're for at least a week, but I know at one point he went somewhere for 2 weeks, and he makes a point of telling us he's disconnecting. And I don't know if he actually does disconnect fully. I don't know if he's doing stuff his family would say he's disconnecting, but from my perspective, it feels like he is. He doesn't send emails. He says that he'll be slow or will not respond to emails if he receives them. So it is kind of interesting to see because it does make I remember when I joined the department and hearing that he, for a couple weeks in the summer and a couple weeks over winter break is out and doesn't, respond and takes vacation time. And he announces it to us that he's going to be out and says, I hope you all take some time too. It really helps because I don't feel embarrassed to say, I would do it anyway. I would go on trips and go places anyway, but it doesn't make me embarrassed to say, oh, I'm going to be out because I'm on a vacation, because I know he does it too.
Exactly. You just explained exactly why role modeling is so important. And I feel like a lot of industries, academia is one of them, where people can kind of fall into this weird overwork mentality. So that's great that he's modeling that and making sure the department takes care of themselves too.
Yeah, it was really interesting because he's so productive. I really wasn't sure what that aspect of being in the department was going to be like. And I was really happy to see that he encourages us to disconnect as well over the breaks and things like that. And I know, usually we take some time to get together and take a trip or do something, work or being related, where we have a lot of fun and whatever. And we haven't done any of that stuff. So I'm hoping to be able to incorporate more trips into my future now that we're both vaccinated as well. But it's interesting to think about how much I miss that those times, and how frustrating or upsetting it is that so many people do that year after year, even if they don't have to. So I think that that's a real problem.
Yeah, I agree. It's really sad that people get into these cycles where they feel like they can't take vacation. And I know that the financial consequence piece is important. There is a privilege associated with traveling, of course. So maybe if it's not travel, like maybe it's just taking time off. Like if you're able to have paid time off, it doesn't have to be paid vacation. It can be paid time off, just time off. And maybe your vacation is a staycation, and that's fine too. But being able to take those is important. But on the financial consequences note, one of the things that they talked about, which I didn't realize companies were doing this, maybe I should have known this, but I didn't know, that some companies, probably a limited few, but some companies have been giving what they call a paid vacation, where they have an incentive where there's funds that go to employees to pay for vacation expenses. And you can only get those funds for your vacation. They're not just like a bonus that you randomly get and they hope that you use it for a vacation. Like, it's only used for vacation. So that can help incentivize people to actually go on a trip or do something where they're worried about financial stuff. If they have some help, they can do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's important to think about employees across levels here too, because for hourly employees, for example, paid time off is, almost non-existent. So thinking about how you can also create breaks in people's schedules or subsidize or give rewards or bonuses, things thinking about across different levels, I think is really important too, because it's not just folks that are in white collar jobs that need these kind of breaks. It's everybody. So thinking about, and I'd be curious to hear if there are any companies that are being innovative around ensuring that people take breaks and bank time off and use that time off, to disconnect, or also have, incentives around getting actually paid out bonuses that can be used for vacation or are specific for vacation would be kind of interesting.
I think it'd be really cool to see that at all sorts of levels. 100% I agree. I think it needs to be something that's accessible to a lot of different types of roles. And like you're saying, hourly roles, like those are the people that probably are going to fear the negative consequences, financial consequences the most. Like your CEOs are not walking around like, oh, I don't know if I can afford to do this. Right. So we really need to be thinking about those employees a lot when making these policies and decisions, because they probably need the help with it or need the assurance that it's not going to have a negative impact financially more than some of the other roles. So I think that's really important. I love that point.
Yeah. And how much will come back to them in terms of the wellness and the, just like the commitment or turnover, there's a lot of benefits in terms of offering those kinds of incentives that other people aren't offering that really help support people's well-being, and people notice it and recognize it. So that would be interesting. If anyone out there's company is doing anything like that, we would love to hear about it. We can look around and see too, but it's making my wheels turn around who's doing interesting stuff in this space. And I think that, you've done a great job of bringing up some really good points, which is when people go on vacation, leave them alone. If you're able to incentivize people financially to take vacation and actually go on vacation, that's great. And this minimum day, even though it's something that you brought up and wasn't in the article, seems really like a good way of dealing with this, because it avoids the issue of people at least not taking some number of vacation days each year to disconnect and unwind.
Yeah, I love it. If I could shape a policy, it would include unlimited time off with a minimum and a paid vacation, like a paid money bonus for vacations.
Yeah.
Like that is the dream. It seems amazing.
Yes. The vacation dream. That song just came out of me because I'm so excited to go on a vacation at some point. I feel like it just like came out of my soul. But yeah, I love this article. I'm so glad that you brought this up, and especially in a time period where people are starting to think about traveling again. I think this is really well timed. Also, don't forget about your days. Go use them, and you might be sitting on a bunch of them if you haven't used them over COVID, and you probably need them more than you know.
Yes, go use your vacation days. And we'd also love for you to subscribe to our podcast. If you haven't yet, share this episode if it's interesting to you and you think there's somebody else that might find it interesting. And please leave us a review for the show as well. That helps other people find us. And that would be very much appreciated. We'd also love to hear your stories. So like as Katina mentioned, if you have some really cool policies that your companies that you've seen around, we want to know. So let us know. You can find us on our website, workerbeing.com. You can email us at contact@workerbeing.com. You can also find us on our social media at workerbeing on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks for listening. The Worker Being podcast is hosted by us, Patricia Grabarek
and Katina Sawyer, and produced by Allie Johnson.